When did they first say it was third-degree murder?
Well,
last week.
Yeah, let's transition to that then. So,
Okay.
The initial charges that were brought forth against the officer, we'll go ahead and transition to that. I want to make sure I read this properly, make sure I don't mess anything up here. Derek Chauvin, he originally was charged with third-degree murder, second-degree manslaughter, but now the AG of Minnesota, Keith Ellison,
right,
who we know and we have covered many, many times as a horrible politician, was most famous as a Muslim, but actually loves to come out against the Jews. Not that that's relevant here, just not a man of character that we particularly have a great track record of covering. But he elevated the case and the charges against Officer Chauvin to second degree. Now, the report I read said and second degree. So I'm not sure how you can be charged with third degree and second degree murder and second degree manslaughter. It's almost like he's throwing everything against the wall to see what sticks. And as I check with Minnesota law, and the question really is if Officer Chauvin walks, it could possibly be similar to the Zimmerman case where they overcharge and they end up charging you for something that is beyond the scope of what the evidence can prove. And so, for instance, so folks, if you don't know how this works, second degree requires intent, right? So it would mean he intended to kill him, whereas third degree is more like malicious behavior, it's reckless endangerment, those kinds of things. Like and from the video, that is almost clearly like you could really make a case. And manslaughter is kind of like impossible to argue, right? We have a battery and assault case, turns into manslaughter. It's something that dies inadvertently, but through your carelessness, and that can be elevated depending on how you're shown as being malicious, which in this case, the policies kind of warrant that, and that leads to death. And that's where the third degree, the initial charge, came into play. To go to the second, it becomes very difficult. I'm not sure how we can show intent to kill him.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the problem. I think that's why Ellison is saying this is going to take months and months and months before we get any result. And like I was saying, I did make this prediction last week to some people at work that they will raise it to second degree, and that's going to make it astronomically more difficult.
And I mentioned the George Zimmerman case because I think that when they tried to go so far into that and try to apply intent to a case that if they had charged the man with manslaughter and they stuck to that, I think it still would have stuck, even though there was a self-defense argument to be made, and it was clear that there was some physical injuries that showed he had been on his back and the back of his head and those kind of things. However, it still turned into a death. It still could have been charged on manslaughter, and I think that it's way more likely. And I think we very carefully can examine other cases, Freddie Gray in Baltimore, the Ari Garner case in New York, and we see overcharging in those cases as well. And that's another reason why many of the officers didn't see jail time. I think we'll see that and let me make sure I run through the other officers here too, because they do also face charges with aiding and abetting second degree murder as well as second degree manslaughter. So aiding and abetting, I think, is or auditing and abetting, depending on how you want to look at it. It's you're standing by and doing nothing. But is that enough? I mean, it seems like, again, a very difficult case that you're going to prove where that's not why he dies. So the autopsies are really pointing to underlying health conditions exacerbated by the arrest procedure, the physical contact, the pressure on his neck and throat. Okay, but intent is a different thing. It's like, I don't know. It's going to create chaos if this guy starts to walk with this much publicity.
If he walks, what you see now is nothing compared to what we're going to see. I think it's going to be a problem, but I'm also interested. Where are they going to find the unbiased jury for this?
I don't know how you're going to trial.
Yeah. So
that's where months are going to come into play. It's how you're going to get people, especially in the state.
Yeah, and Ellison knows he can't screw this up.
Oh yeah,
and I think he was probably under a lot of pressure to up the charge too. I mean, people want this guy's hide.
And then I can add another wrinkle, which I thought was just bizarre. I don't know if you saw this. Did you see that one of the things that came out of the autopsies, and I don't know if it's because it didn't get caught the first time or I don't know, but it came out that Floyd has had COVID.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's relevant, but I thought it was just weird that they would just, that gets legs in the press. Like, I'm like, what? Why is that relevant to anything?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw that too. I was like, Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything.
I don't think it means anything. As far as we know, he was never hospitalized. He never had any.
I think he'd already recovered.
Yeah, it was past tense, so he had it. So I assume there's an antibody presence. Is what they were. What they were finding. All right. Well, I don't know. I think that it's all. We're just in a really strange place, and I think it's just a weird place and time, and it's hard to see a high-profile case get so national, because really it's since Zimmerman. I'm not sure these other cases have. They're always alluded to by the activists. I'm hearing different. The young man, his last name was Rice.
Tamir Rice.
Yeah, Tamir Rice, who had the BB gun, air pistol in his pants, and he reached for it right when officers were pulling up. And didn't stop, and so there's a lot more to some of these stories. That's what kept them out of the national attention, because it was like, wow, intent. You're charging these people with second, third degree murder. We start to, dispute over intent.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. This is possibly the greatest lifesaver for people that are being stopped by the cops now.
Yeah, the cell phones, the videos. Yeah, we wouldn't have cases. In many, and George Floyd possibly would not have even have a chance to see justice for the family, because they went without any real charges, and that will be under investigation as well. As like, why wasn't charges being brought and those kind of things for so many days afterwards?
Now, do you know anything about before he was thrown on the ground? I haven't seen anything like that.
I can't find anything that I could verify,
because he was actually being arrested for, from what I understand.
Yeah, the counterfeit
money.
Yeah.
Do you really manhandle somebody like that?
That's the Eric Garner case. Do you manhandle someone for breaking the city ordinance over selling cigarettes that are out of the pack instead of whole packs? I mean, it's like, why are we going to wrestle someone to the ground for this? Yeah. But again, it seems like, are there body cam, dash cam footage we haven't seen yet? You know what I mean? Because that's usually where some of these stories, these cases have shifted. It's footage that doesn't come out for 2-3 weeks later, and then it's released. We saw this out with Michael Brown. We find out Michael Brown never did do hands up, don't shoot. He faced charge, but all this came out so much later than the initial reporting that by then people already had their mind made up. The emotional charge was already there. George Floyd's easily going to be there. They can come out with something tomorrow that could spell a completely different story, and I'm not sure this will turn around as quick.
I don't think so. I mean, because we do have that footage of the knee on the neck. I mean, that kind of says it all, right? Yeah.
Because what would warrant that? Nothing warrants that. Nothing warrants 9 minutes on your throat with 3 other guys standing there. It's just crazy.
You already had him down.
Yeah.
I mean.
Right. This is different than the Arbery case. The Arbery case, when we finally see the videos, we see he was doing certain things. He starts to validate a story of what the other 2 guys were saying. And then you see an actual struggle for a weapon. Standing in front of the muzzle of the gun, struggling with it, is not going to end well for you. Like, you should never, ever even point your gun at anyone or yourself, even accidentally. Like, you are asking for it, a horrible, horrible result.
So what did you think about the other 3? I mean, they are culpable, right? Do you think?
Yeah, but I don't know the charges, and I didn't get to read the Minnesota law to understand how aiding, abetting, all those kinds of things fit in. Well, because there still is a language of intent with elevating those to second degree.
I wasn't even asking about the legal, just the professional moral aspect of
they're just awful human beings to be complicit with watching someone get murdered in front of you. I have no idea why you need to watch someone be held. First of all, I don't understand why we need to hold someone down. And once you have them zipped up and they're essentially restrained, why do we need to keep them held down? You have tasers, you have different restraints that you can use. If these 3 are somehow proven to be inadequate, or there was some other element to the story, then you call for more people. This is why we have you guys. It is incompetent at best. It is culpably negligent, clearly. But there is no reason to believe that they are all innocent of any type of guilt and being sort of like accomplices in this man's death. No, nothing would warrant that.
Were they fired?
Everyone was fired pretty much. That had happened, I think, very quickly. And I think that also was another reason why charges might not have been brought right away, is there could be a sense of sweeping things under the carpet. I don't know that for sure. That is my opinion. But a lot of that will come out as things are investigated. We'll know who talked to who, what was being done. Documents will be dated. Things will know. Things will come to light and we'll know. But until then, it's a lot of just speculation.